Good evening. I want you to take a quiet moment with me. Just breathe for a second, because sometimes life gives us days that feel small on the calendar, but enormous in the heart. Today is one of those days for me. March 7th, a date that might look ordinary to the world, but to me it carries something powerful, something gentle, something gentle, something unforgettable. You see, life is strange. It takes us through long roads of doubt, late nights of wondering, and moments where we question if our feelings are enough, if our courage is enough, if our courage is enough. And then one day we gather the bravery to speak from the deepest place inside our hearts. No rehearsed words, no perfect script, just truth. Today, I stood there with that truth, my heart beating louder than my voice, my hands carrying hope, my mind filled with every moment that led to this one. The the music, I asked a question that can change everything in a person's life. A simple question, but one that holds the weight of dreams, vulnerability, and love. And the beautiful part, the moment that turned this ordinary day into something extraordinary. Music. She smiled, not just a small smile, but the kind that makes the world pause for a second. The kind that tells you your heart was heard. And then she said yes. March 7th, the day hope answered back, the day courage met kindness. The day love looked at me and said, I choose you too. March 7th is not just another date on the calendar for me. It is a day that feels alive in my memory, a day that carries the quiet weight of a moment that changed something deep inside my heart. When I woke up that morning, the world looked the same as it always does. The sky was still the sky, the air still moved the same way, and people were living their ordinary lives. But inside me there was a storm of emotions, a quiet mixture of hope and fear, moving through my chest like waves that refuse to settle. There are moments in life when you realize that the next words you speak might shape the future in ways you cannot fully understand yet. You feel it in the way your heart beats a little faster, in the way your thoughts begin to wander between courage and doubt. That was how the day began for me. I carried a question inside my heart, a question that had been growing for a long time. It was not a complicated question, but it was honest. And sometimes honesty is the most vulnerable thing a person can offer. Love has a strange way of entering a life. It doesn't arrive with loud announcements or flashing lights. It grows slowly in quiet moments, in shared smiles, and conversations that feel effortless, in the way someone's presence makes the world feel calmer. Somewhere along that path, without even noticing exactly when it happened, I realized that she had become someone incredibly important to me. There was something about the way she existed in the world that made everything feel a little brighter. The way she laughed, the way she laughed, the way she listened, the way she could turn an ordinary moment into something meaningful just by being there. It wasn't perfection that made her special. It was something more real than that. It was the warmth of her heart, the kindness in her eyes, and the simple truth that being around her made me feel more like myself. But loving someone is one thing and telling them is another. There is a quiet fear that lives in the space between those two things, a fear that asks questions you cannot easily answer. What if the feeling is not shared? What if the moment changes everything? What if the courage you gather is not enough? For a long time, those questions lived quietly inside my thoughts. They would appear late at night when the world was silent, or in small pauses during the day when my mind wandered. And yet, every time I thought about staying silent, and yet, every time I thought about staying silent, inside me whispered that love deserves honesty. So March 7th became the day I decided to listen to that whisper. The hours before the moment felt different from normal time. Every minute seemed longer, every thought seemed louder. I remember noticing small details around me that I might normally ignore: the movement of the wind, the sound of distant voices, the feeling of my own heartbeat reminding me that I was about to do something that mattered deeply. When I finally stood in front of her, something interesting happened. All the complicated sentences I had imagined saying disappeared. The perfect speech I thought I might deliver simply faded away. What remained was something simple and real. What remained was something simple and real. Sometimes the heart does not need many words. I looked at her and felt that familiar calm that always came when she was near. The kind of calm that makes the rest of the world feel less important for a moment. And in that quiet space, I allowed myself to speak honestly. I told her that she had become someone incredibly meaningful in my life, that the days seemed brighter when she was part of them, that her presence had a way of turning ordinary moments into memories worth holding on to. I told her that somewhere along the way, my feelings had grown deeper than friendship, deeper than simple admiration, music. I told her that I cared for her. Those words might sound small to someone listening from the outside, but when they come from the deepest place in your heart, they carry a kind of weight that is difficult to explain. There was a moment of silence after I spoke, Not a long silence, but long enough for 1,000 thoughts to pass through my mind. In that moment, I realized something important about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is speaking even when fear is present. My heart was beating so loudly that I could almost hear it, and then something beautiful, music, happened. She smiled. It wasn't just a polite smile or a quick reaction. It was the kind of smile that carries warmth and understanding. The kind of smile that carries warmth and understanding. The kind of smile that reaches the eyes and makes the world feel lighter. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm and gentle, and every word felt like it was arriving exactly when it needed to. She said yes. Three simple letters, but they carried more meaning than entire pages of words ever could. In that instant, the fear that had lived inside me dissolved into something else entirely. Relief, joy, disbelief, gratitude. All of it rushed through my chest at once. It felt like the world had quietly shifted. March 7th became more than just a date. It became a memory that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. A reminder that honesty can open doors we are sometimes too afraid to approach. A reminder that love is not something we should hide from or postpone until the perfect moment arrives. Because the truth is, there is rarely a perfect moment arrives. Because the truth is, there is rarely a perfect moment. There are only real moments. Moments when we choose to be brave enough to show someone how much they matter to us. Moments when we stop protecting our hearts long enough to let someone see what lives inside them. That day taught me something about vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we are giving another person the chance to see us clearly. Not the version we present to the world, but the real version underneath all the careful walls we build around ourselves. And sometimes, if we are lucky, the person standing in front of us looks at that honesty and says yes. That yes is not just an answer to a question, music. It is an acceptance of the feelings behind the question. It is a quiet agreement to walk forward together and see where the road might lead. I remember the way the air felt different after she said it. The world outside hadn't changed, but inside me something had shifted. The weight I had carried for so long suddenly felt lighter. We stood there sharing a moment that felt strangely peaceful. No grand celebration, no dramatic music playing in the background. Just two people standing together, realizing that something meaningful had just begun. Sometimes the most important moments in life arrive quietly, like that. They do not announce themselves with loud fanfare. They simply appear gentle and sincere, and later we look back and realize that everything after that moment was shaped by it. March 7th became one of those moments for me. It reminded me that love is not about perfection or dramatic gestures. It is about sincerity. It is about showing someone your true feelings and trusting that the connection between you is strong enough to hold them. And when she accepted my proposal, it felt like the universe had taken a deep breath and whispered that sometimes courage really does lead to something beautiful. The memory of her smile stayed with me long after the moment passed. It was a reminder that some of the best things in life happen when we choose honesty over silence. Because silence can protect us from rejection, but it can also protect us from rejection. But it can also protect us from happiness. That day I chose happiness, even though I did not know what the answer would be. And the answer turned out to be yes. A simple word that changed the meaning of March 7th forever. A word that carried warmth, possibility, and the quiet promise of a shared future waiting somewhere ahead. A word that reminded me that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply speak from the heart and trust that love will understand. March 7th did not end when the moment passed. In many ways, it felt like that day had only just begun. The words she spoke, that quiet and beautiful yes, stayed with me long after the moment itself faded into memory. It echoed in my thoughts in the softest way, like a calm melody that refuses to disappear. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that something inside me had changed. Before that moment, love felt like a question. After that moment, it began to feel like a path. There is something powerful about hearing someone choose you. In a world full of noise, distractions, and endless possibilities, when a person looks at you and says yes, it carries a meaning that is difficult to describe. It is not just acceptance, it is recognition. It is someone seeing who you are, seeing the honesty you offered, and deciding that they want to walk beside you. That realization stayed with me as the day continued. I remember noticing the smallest details around me in a way I never had before. The sky looked a little brighter. The air felt lighter. Even ordinary sounds seemed softer, almost as if the world itself understood that something important had happened. It was strange how a single moment could shift the way everything felt. Before March 7th, there had always been uncertainty in the background of my thoughts. The quiet question of what might happen if I spoke honestly about my feelings. But after she accepted my proposal, that uncertainty transformed into something else entirely. It became possibility. Possibility has a unique kind of energy. It opens doors inside your mind that you may not have realized were there. It allows you to imagine the future, not as something distant and unclear, but as something shared, something that two people can slowly build together with patience, trust, and kindness. When someone accepts your love, they are not just answering a question from the present moment. They are also acknowledging the future that might grow from that moment. And that realization is both beautiful and humbling, because love is not only about happiness, it is also about responsibility. When someone places their trust in you, when they choose to stand beside you, it becomes your duty to honor that trust with sincerity. I thought about that deeply after March 7th. Love is not a promise of perfection. It is not a guarantee that life will always be easy or that every day will feel magical. Real love is something quieter and stronger than that. It is the decision to remain kind when life becomes complicated. It is the willingness to listen, to understand, and to stand beside someone even during moments of uncertainty. That is what her yes meant to me. It meant that we were beginning something real. There is a certain peace that comes when you realize that you are no longer walking through life alone. Not because you needed someone to complete you, but because you have found someone who chooses to share the journey, you individuals. Each carrying their own dreams, each carrying their own dreams, fears, and experiences, deciding that their paths can move forward together. That idea filled my heart with gratitude. Gratitude is an emotion that sometimes goes unnoticed in our lives. We become so focused on chasing goals and reaching destinations that we forget to appreciate the moments that truly matter. But March 7th reminded me to pause and feel grateful for something simple and powerful. Someone I cared deeply about had chosen to accept my love. That realization brought a quiet warmth into my life. I began to think about the many small moments that had led to that day. Every conversation, every shared smile, every moment when we simply existed in the same space without needing to say much, all those small experiences had slowly built the connection that allowed that proposal to happen. Love rarely appears suddenly, it grows in quiet places. It grows in the way someone remembers the little things that matter to you. It grows in the way they listen when you speak about your dreams. It grows in the comfort of silence when two people sit together and feel completely at ease. Those moments had shaped the path that led to March 7th, and now that path was moving forward into something new. I realized that love is not just about the excitement of a beginning, music. It is also about the patience required to continue building something meaningful over time. Relationships are not defined by one beautiful moment. They are defined by the countless ordinary days that follow. The days when life is busy, when problems appear, when emotions become complicated. Those are the moments that truly reveal the strength of love. When someone says yes to your proposal, they are not only embracing the joyful moments ahead, they are also accepting the responsibility of standing beside you during the difficult ones. That thought made me respect her answer even more, because saying yes requires courage too. It means trusting another person with your heart. It means believing that the connection between you is strong enough to grow and adapt as life continues to change. It means choosing hope, even though the future is always uncertain. And in that sense, love becomes an act of quiet bravery shared by two people. After March 7th, I found myself thinking about the kind of partner I wanted to be. If someone was willing to trust me with their feelings, then I wanted to become someone worthy of that trust. That meant being patient. It meant being supportive when life became challenging. It meant celebrating her happiness as if it were my own. It meant respecting her individuality and remembering that love does not erase who we are as individuals. True love allows two people to grow together while still remaining true to themselves. That balance is something beautiful because relationships should not feel like cages. They should feel like open spaces where both people can breathe, dream, and evolve without fear of losing the connection they share. The more I thought about it, the more I understood that March 7th was not just a day of happiness. It was also the beginning of a deeper commitment to understanding love in its most genuine form. Love requires attention. It requires listening to the emotions that are not always spoken aloud. It requires noticing when the person you care about needs support, even if they do not directly ask for it. Even if they do not directly ask for it. These are the quiet responsibilities that come with saying, I love you. And those responsibilities are not burdens, they are privileges. Because having the opportunity to care for someone, to protect their happiness, and to grow alongside them is one of the most meaningful experiences a person can have. That thought filled me with determination. I wanted our story to be built on respect and kindness. I wanted our future to be shaped by patience rather than pride, by understanding rather than stubbornness, because love deserves effort. Too often people treat love as something that should survive on feelings alone. But feelings can change, fade, and return again. What keeps love alive is the effort two people make to care for each other every day. Effort is the quiet proof of love. It appears in small gestures, in the way someone asks about your day and genuinely listens to your answer, in the way they support your dreams even when those dreams seem distant or difficult. Effort is choosing to stay present when life becomes complicated. And I knew that if we were going to build something meaningful together, effort would be one of the most important ingredients in our journey. March 7th reminded me that love is not something we simply receive. It is something we create together. Two hearts, two lives, two perspectives slowly weaving themselves into a shared story. And that story does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be honest. Honesty is the foundation that allows love to survive the challenges that life inevitably brings. Without honesty, misunderstandings grow in the spaces where truth should live. But when two people choose honesty, even when it feels uncomfortable, they create a bond that can endure far more than simple attraction. That is the kind of connection I hope to build after hearing her answer. A connection built on trust. Trust is a fragile and powerful thing at the same time. It takes time to grow, but it can be damaged quickly if we forget how important it is. So protecting that trust became something I carried in my thoughts. Because when someone trusts you with their heart, you must treat that trust with care. You must remember that love is not just about how you feel in the happiest moments. It is about how you behave when life becomes difficult. Do you remain kind? Do you remain patient? Do you remain patient? Do you remain willing to understand the other person's feelings, even when your own emotions are strong? These questions are the quiet tests of love. And the more I thought about them, the more I realized that her yes was not just a celebration, it was also an invitation to become a better version of myself. Love has that effect on people. When we truly care about someone, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. We recognize the habits and flaws that we want to improve. We feel motivated to grow, not because we are forced to, but because we want to be the kind of partner who contributes positively to the relationship. Growth becomes a shared journey. Two people encouraging each other to reach their potential while remaining connected through mutual respect. That is the beauty of a healthy relationship. It does not limit who you can become, it supports your evolution. As I continued reflecting on March 7th, I felt a quiet excitement about the future, not because I believed everything ahead would be easy, but because I believed everything ahead would be easy, but because I knew we would face whatever came next together. Life is unpredictable. There will be days filled with laughter, and days filled with laughter, and days filled with frustration. There will be moments when everything feels perfect and moments when patience is required. But